If you want to know what my family thought about the sausage and whether or not we needed to tweak the recipe, just go ahead and stay to the end of this video and I'll share that information.
Hey y'all, welcome to Heritage Ways. Today we are going to turn a simple, ordinary ground pork into sausage, just a basic country-style breakfast sausage. So stay tuned and let's work on this heritage skill and learn how to turn plain pork into something spicy for our breakfast or breakfast for dinner. Who doesn't love that? I'm Miss Katie. Thanks for being here. This is Heritage Ways, where I teach homemaking skills, and nowadays that's called homesteading as well, but homesteading skills with old-fashioned values. Today I am going to just remind you that you can take ground pork and turn it into sausage for your family, for any of your bulk sausage needs. You might have seen at the store sausage, but then you might have seen ground pork, and you might think, well, what's the difference? Okay, ground pork is ground pork meat, and it is not seasoned, flavored in any way, so it is a blank canvas. Ground pork is good to have for things like meatloaf. It is really, really good to have a mixture of meats when you're making meatloaf. I do have a video here on YouTube about it's a delicious meatloaf. Very, very good. But one secret to making a good meatloaf is to having more than one kind of meat. So you would have some sort of ground beef. You would have ground beef, and then you would have ground pork, and maybe even some lamb or another kind of meat. But at least two kinds of meat. But you can use sausage for a meatloaf. That's fine to do that, but I use ground pork and ground beef. Now, what is sausage? Well, sausage, when we're talking about bulk sausage, when you get it in those, the sleeves, the 1 pound, maybe even 2 pound, you might find somewhere, that is flavored or seasoned ground pork. And that's what we're doing today. Now, I want to say, this is a heritage skill, and something that our pioneer ancestors have been doing for years. There are probably as many recipes as there are people in the world. So I'm just doing a basic country sausage today, just showing you how I flavor this up, telling you the book that I got this from. And listen, there are so many different kinds. I remember watching the Waltons one time, and they were making, Grandma and Mama were making sausage. And I think they had a debate, somebody in the house did, about, I think Beulah Bondi was in that show, in that episode rather, and they were talking about how many cayenne pepper pods to put in it. So if you want it hot, add the pepper pods. I'm not really doing that today, making it hot, but you can just add more of your dried pepper pods. And if you don't know how to dry those, we have a video here from 2017 where Little Miss Homemaker was showing how to dry cayenne pepper pods. All right, I'm going to bring you in closer, but first let me show you the book that I'm using. Now, this is a book from the 70s, I believe, Back to Basics, and it is a great book. It's the book I've used for a lot of different things. It's one I've used to tan the deer hide that I'm finishing up. But this is the chapter that says Sausages and Scrapple, Delicious Techniques for Avoiding Waste. And it really outlines how to make the sausage and put it in the casings and so forth. We're not putting it in casings. I'm making this for just the purposes of making patties and frying it for our supper tonight or tomorrow night. Now, I say that it is really best if you allow the flavors to marry for at least a couple of days. But let's come on in and just let me show you a basic recipe, so jot this down because I probably am not going to write it on my website right now. So just jot it down, and you'll want to jot down the proportions because this particular recipe uses 4 pounds of pork, lean pork, and 2 pounds of pork fat. So that's a total of 6 pounds. And I have 2 pounds. This is from a pig that our friends butchered, and we bought a quarter of that just 2 days ago. So this is fresh. So you just want to get your spices and your meat. Now I'm going to use gloves today because I've got several cuts on my hands from another project I was doing, and I don't want to expose my hands to the meat and my meat to the hands. So let me just bring you in and we'll go over these proportions, and you will know then how to turn just ground pork, because sometimes you might just find ground pork in the store. Maybe it's more expensive to buy sausage than ground pork. That is definitely true in my store, my local IGA. Ground pork is very much cheaper than sausage. And also another benefit in sausage, I've noticed, you know, they put nitrates and nitrites, and I don't feed my family that stuff. They put different preservatives. They put sugar, which this recipe calls for, but I'm not going to put sugar. And so you can control your ingredients and make something that is fresh. And plus you just have the satisfaction of making it yourself. Okay, so you might just write down the proportions I'm using today. But like I said, I am basically doing a third of the recipe that's in this book. So I've got 2 pounds of pork, ground pork. And I'm going to put a teaspoon of salt. Now, I always use Redmond real salt, teaspoon and a dash. Redmond real salt in everything I do, even my preserving, my canning, my fermenting. I've got sage. This is rubbed sage or sage, dried sage. This is from my garden. And I'm going to use 2 teaspoons, so I can just kind of measure that out in my hands. That's a little too much. Now, again, though, remember that you can customize your sausage. You put more sage, put less sage, put more pepper, less pepper, no salt, no sugar. All right, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon. That was about 2 teaspoons of sage that I did. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of finely ground black pepper. I'm going to put 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. I love cloves and things. Love that flavor. Clove really shines in my taco seasoning recipe as well. And then I am going to put 1/3 cup of water. Actually, I'm only going to put about 1/2 of that. All right. And I'll add more if I think I need it, but I'm not sure why I would. Use pure water from my Berkey. That's the only kind of water we cook with or drink. All right. Now, see, what I've done is just, I'm not going to add more water. I don't see the point. The recipe calls for it, but I don't really see the point. These gloves are too big. I was doing a job the other day that was cutting my hands, and I didn't grab some gloves, so I'm regretting it now. All right, and this is it. You're just mixing this together, and then you're just letting the flavors marry. And again, I want to just stress, you can alter the spices, but this is a good basic starter recipe if you have never made bulk sausage. And that's it. My gloves are wanting to come off. Oh, me. They're extra large. They're Mr. Patient size. This is also, I'm excited about this meat because it is grass-fed. And they feed the pigs A2 raw milk. So that makes me happy. Take that little piece out.
Alright, I want to tell you what the family thought about the seasoning. Mr. Patient said it needed a bit more sage for him, so I probably would double the sage amount. Quite honestly, if I was just making this for us and not trying to give y'all measurements, I would just put some in a palm full or whatever. But I also thought that it probably needed more of everything else too. So maybe don't double the amount that I told you, but maybe 1.5 times the amount of everything else. Also, I know a lot of recipes call for nutmeg or even Italian seasonings if you want Italian sausage. So honestly, this video is just meant to be an inspiration for you and not necessarily a strict recipe to go by. But like I said, Mr. Patient said he thought it did need more sage. So it's really a matter of what kind of flavor you like. I personally would have liked a lot of hot pepper, but I don't do that because Little Music Man and Mr. Patient don't care for that. So just let me know in the comments down below, are you going to try to make your own sausage? And what is a seasoning that you want to make sure you include in your sausage flavorings when you make it? I'd love to hear your creativity.